$5 million for further assistance to residents in flood-affected communities has been released by the administration today.
Government is to prioritize the construction of a $3 billion canal from the East Demerara Water Conservancy to the Atlantic Ocean as a measure of dealing with future floods.
And the Health Ministry begins to treat persons in flood-affected areas against leptospirosis and urges sick persons who are unable to seek medical attention to call its office.
And of course, we will bring you the latest sporting action in Diamond, Mineral Water, and MCN Sports News. Good evening, I'm Delisia Fletcher.
I'm Paul Moore.
This is the edition of the 6 o'clock news for today, Tuesday, January 6, 2009. Here's what's happening. Paul.
Thanks, Delisia. The administration has released $5 million to the Civil Defense Commission to provide assistance to those most vulnerable in flood-affected areas. According to Agriculture Minister Raul Prasad, the CDC had previously conducted a survey of various areas and will select those who qualify to benefit. He notes that this is expected to begin almost immediately in the MMA areas, which have been among the worst affected. Government has also earmarked some $100 million as post-relief assistance to farmers who have suffered losses. President Barry Jagdeo says construction of the canal from the Conservancy to the Atlantic at Hope East Coast Demerara will take priority over some projects this year, as it is critical to reduce flooding on the eastern corridor. The President made this comment yesterday during a visit to the Mahaica, Maikoni, and Abari Creeks to interact with farmers and residents. Edward Lane reports.
President Barry Jagdeo says the $3 billion government-funded project will significantly reduce flooding in areas prone to this disaster. The President explained that with this canal, water will be released quite easily from the Conservancy whenever it surpasses the manageable level.
Rather than bringing water in the Mahaica area, we got to take it out here. That's the only way we'll be able to relieve the Conservancy, if we take the water out. It should go out faster because it's a short distance. You don't have to go up all the way to the river. And hopefully that, if it's big enough, it can take off most of the water that we have to relieve.
The President vowed that the project must become a reality, even if it means delaying other infrastructure works. But he warned that some residents usually cry foul when other works are not done.
But there's some things that can wait a little bit. We people are going to feel bad if the roads aren't fixed and stuff, but I can't go through this every season. We got to take that money and shift it to building, getting a long-term solution to this problem. So that is what we're going to do now this year. If I can't complete it this year, it's going to be completed next year. But I got to take some money, shift resources around the budget.
The project comprises of a canal from the Conservancy to the Atlantic Ocean with 2 four-door sluices at both ends. Currently, discharge of water from the reservoir is done from the 2 ends through the Mahaica, Maikoni, and Abari Creek into the Berbice River on the east and the Kofi, Kunya, and the Land of Canaan into the Demerara River on the west. Meanwhile, the President has also warned residents that more rains are expected and noted that government is making every effort to abort a worst-case scenario. Some residents have called for supplies of foodstuffs in the affected areas, and the President said if this is to be done, it will be for selected groups.
And every time people think about this grocery business and stuff, we see the households that probably need, poor households that need assistance, and CDC will do that. We said that already. So look at poor households and people where they'll start their income. But I don't want to start a widespread thing. It seems as though every season, let me tell you, people get little. I heard some of them went to my office just now. Little flood that knee deep, when they not knee deep, ankle deep on the coast. I grew up in the East Coast. Water just accumulate and run off when they tide, not like here. And people already under flood nowadays. So from the time they get a little bit water in the yard, they come up to my office. They want flood relief and grocery and all of that stuff.
Several communities countrywide have been inundated for over 2 weeks due to heavy rainfall. The Mahaica, Maikoni, and Abari Creeks are hardest hit after authorities were forced to release water from the Conservancy to avoid breaches. Edward Lane, the 6 o'clock news.
The Health Ministry is urging persons in flood-affected areas who are ill and unable to seek medical attention to call its office. Chief Medic Maurice Jeffrey says once contacted, the ministry will ensure health teams visit these persons. Details from Nika Jones.
The Health Ministry continues to dispatch teams of at least 5 health workers to flood-affected communities. and Chief Medic Maurice Jeffrey is calling on persons in those communities who are unable to seek medical attention to call the ministry.
Probably some people live alone within their home and they need help, then we can dispatch a team to those areas. So if anybody is sick, it could be fatal, so get in touch with us and we will ensure that they are taken care of.
The medics is also reminding persons to be cautious in flood waters as they guard against waterborne diseases. He is also urging persons to wash their hands after using the toilet and their feet with disinfected water before entering their homes.
These little advices, we should follow them and seek help from the medical teams that visit these areas in case there is any problem. Then I think that we should not have anything so disastrous on our hands at this time.
The ministry has since treated more than 3,000 persons in affected communities. Monica Jones, This is O'Clock News.
The Guyana Red Cross Society has intensified its efforts in relieving flood-affected residents along the coastal belt. This comes after an assessment by its volunteers at the weekend. Mark Murray has more.
The Guyana Red Cross Society has summoned its volunteers as it structures a response to the flood-affecting scores of residents on Guyana's coast. NCN understands that the volunteers were made to attend a special meeting where the society response was being devised. The volunteers were also updated on their roles during the current situation.
So bringing people together on Friday afternoon was an effort to make sure we have on standby, prepared, ready to go to do a number of things, volunteers who perhaps need to be reminded of the codes of conduct and how to conduct assessments.
Mistress Fraser told NCN that an assessment was first done to determine the needs of affected residents. She disclosed that checks were done at canals number 1 and 2, Cane Grove, Montrose, Mahaika, and Maikoni, and the Abari River area.
That people still had concerns about skin conditions and that there was a certain loss in animals and crops. So our volunteers were able to make some notes and were reporting back, and just prior to this we had a staff meeting in which we got some of the information that came in, and that will help us to formulate our continuing steps.
The Red Cross had started to distribute detergent to residents and some other supplies.
With the draft funding, we will also have additional supplies coming in and being able to take out things to communities. We did start with some of the bleach distribution. There'll be a follow-up with some health and hygiene packages so that people can keep their surroundings cleaner and help them to disinfect their particular compounds and homes.
For the NCN News, Mark Moore reporting.